Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist. I have degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, and a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy. In this video, I'm not seeking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hey everybody, welcome to Shadow Work Wednesdays. We are in level 2. Hi Tanina. We are in level 2. This is session 2. We're going to get even deeper. So today we're going to talk a lot about the what of the collective unconscious. So last time we got into the collective unconscious and how to conceptualize that, like it's like you're playing a video game or the movie Avatar or like the Matrix. You know, we talked about the difference between you as the self of you and being sort of plugged into this avatar to utilize our senses to interact with our reality, let's say. So, hi Leon, thanks for being in here. So we ended with recombinant conceptualization. So that's where we're going to start, recombinant conceptualization, because it's just an interesting title for multiple people pulling down something or pulling something out of the collective unconscious at about the same time. So the greatest example that I use is like when you come up with an invention or an idea and a time later, you know, usually it's like a year or so, it seems like somebody else has that idea, or you see that invention in a commercial and you're like, wait, we never had this thing before. And now when I have this idea, somebody else has got this idea. And then you see quickly somebody's made a better version of it. This is like when people start talking about an idea and then multiple people start having that idea. That is recombinant conceptualization. And that phenomenon, that's how it's talked about. But what's happening is that once something is pulled from the collective unconscious into reality, then it becomes available to others. And so there's this phrase that says there's no new ideas on earth, or there's another saying that goes, there's only 12 stories ever told, which is interesting if you go down that rabbit hole, because you can literally see it. Every single movie, every TV show, everything is based on these same 12 stories. There's no new story, from ancient writings all the way through to today. So it's sort of like we have access to it, but what we use is really only what's been pulled down out of the collective unconscious. So the purpose, kind of the reason that we want to do shadow work, is not just so that we are healed or balanced and living a good life. It's not just for that. It's because if we can connect into that, we can pull information that's never been pulled down before. Hi, Adrian. Thanks for being in here. You haven't missed anything. You're only 4 minutes late. So just a review of recombinant conceptualization. And for me, that's one of the big examples of there has to be something out there, some body of knowledge out there that once it's pulled in to a shared space, then we're able to access it. So like when we talked about Descartes, our attachment to that universal unconscious is not through our senses. Our senses are what helps us to navigate the physical world. Like our avatar that has senses is how we interact with matter. So, I mean, if you think about it, and I just talked about this on Sunday, our eyesight, we see 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum. So, and we all know we've thought we saw something and it wasn't there, or we thought we smelled something or touched something, or, and it's not there. Our senses can and do deceive us at times. And so that can't be how we tap into universal knowledge, right? So we don't use our senses. We literally have to go inside to get out of ourselves. So that's part of shadow work, right? Is that we go inward and seek truth, seek realness, what is really real, not just what I'm experiencing through my avatar or this, this meat sack that I live in, right? So when we come into existence, we are conceptualized by our parents. Okay, so our parents have an idea of us, and then we are manifested into that physical form based upon our ancestry, right? Our genetics play a role into what the matter looks like. Okay, there has to be available matter, there has to be available energy, right? So we talk about how energy is not created or destroyed, but also nature abhors a vacuum. So there was a blank space that was for you, right? You were exactly what was needed in that void. So nature had to fill that void with you. And so as your parents conceptualize you, matter and DNA comes together to make this avatar that you are going to be into. And then you are born into a timeline, right? And the way I like to, timeline is thrown around. That's another one of those phrases that you kind of hear in the woo-woo community, and it's thrown around. But I think if you've watched Marvel movies, you can understand timelines. But I view a timeline as this ancestral relay race. So as ancestors finish their section of the relay race, they hand the baton. So their matter, their physical DNA, things like that get passed to the next generation, and they hand that generation the relay baton to take the next section of this relay race of life. Okay. So we're born, we are born into our avatars to play the game, right? So even if you missed Sunday, oh, hi, D. Scott. If you missed Sunday, there was a lot of talk about the Matrix, and that even the CIA has information out there about that we live in a matrix, which is like a hologram. Again, we interact with it through our senses. So we're born into our avatar to play this game, to plug into the matrix. And I call it a game, not just because I talk about how it's similar to playing a video game, but also because it seems like there's a purpose, right? We're born into a void. Earth wants us to be here. Energy wants us to be here. We are born. We have a reason to be born. And to figure out the reason means there's going to be challenges, right? Like a game. But that means there has to be a way to win or to beat the game. Okay. So our avatar gets plugged into the matrix. We're ready to play the game. Okay. We can look at a game like, it's called Surviving Earth. I don't know. What kind of names would you guys call it? Like living here at this time, in this timeline with, your ancestors handing you the baton. What would you call this, game of life. You could call it the game of life, the real game of life, right? I call it surviving Earth because, man, some days it's a challenge to survive, right? And we don't get, have so many lives that we just, you know, reanimate and move on. You know what I mean? So we have this game, Surviving Earth. So we have to figure out who is the big villain, right? Who is the overarching monster that is constantly sending out little monsters or minor monsters into our way, sending barriers, sending people that treat us badly, get us onto different paths, make us learn a lesson, make us get a certain a new skill, a new talent, right? Well, shit, the mini series. I like it. I like it. Which, could you imagine at that moment of birth when you may still have some memory of being downloaded? Don't you think that, and that you're here on Earth, your response might be, well, shit. Did it again. Yeah, D. Scott, he agrees with that. Okay. So if we think about our biggest barriers as human beings, it usually always is around fear. And I'll bring that up again later, that we're afraid to say something. We're afraid to do something. We're afraid to not say something, to not do something, to hurt this person's feelings, to get in trouble, to be punished, to have repercussions. We're afraid of consequences. We're afraid of what it could mean if we did something. We're afraid of things outside. We're afraid of things inside. We're afraid of doing shadow work sometimes. We're afraid of reliving our trauma. We're afraid of certain people. We're afraid of what would happen if we weren't afraid of people. So, Leon says surviving a moment. Yeah. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, right? Like if we are immortal, I mean, our avatar is definitely mortal, but energy is immortal. And if we're part of that energy, then what we do here is a moment. It's just a moment, right? Oh, Adrian Hicks says, I paid for the deluxe package, so I could have been born rich, white, and male. I guess I shouldn't have bought my tickets from Temu. You're male. I don't know. I assume you're not white. And I don't know about rich. I have my own thoughts about money again because this is a game. So money is one of those things, right? Like food or resources or friends, or it's part of whatever timeline you're on and what you need to do with that timeline and what your purpose is and how do you get beyond certain barriers. Money's a part of that. A lot of people say money makes the world go round. And while I say, people say money doesn't make you happy, but I totally agree with the people who say I would rather cry in a Lamborghini. Like, I totally get it. I don't want to starve. Money could make you happy if the thing standing between you and happiness is lack of money. So I think it's rich people that say that. Yeah, not me. So the overarching villain is fear. So another reason why I say that it's fear is because our shadow, right? Our shadow is our anti-hero. It's the other side of our psyche, right? Like it's our alter ego. It's not our ego, it's our alter ego. And a lot of times what our shadow tries to do is instill fear. it will say things like, you're just dumb. But what's inherent in that is that other people will find out that you're dumb, right? Even though cognitively you're not dumb. And that's why we hide the shadow. That's why we lead with our ego, because we don't want anybody else to see what's in the shadow. We're hiding it. We're scared. And that's why it works. That's why the shadow works, because as human beings, we are inherently afraid. And then the world doesn't help with that, because then the world does things to make you afraid. And then we have the matrix in and of itself, and the way the game is set up and who's running the game. They purposefully fear monger, right? They play upon your fears and your insecurities to direct your life and to extract what they want. So, the game is it's called whatever you want to call it, okay? Could be surviving a moment, could be called well shit, could be called whatever you want to call it. That's your life, right? The villain of life is fear. And we all can think of people who are losing that battle. And we can think of people or groups of people who utilize their own fear to hurt other people, be it individual or groups. It's fear. Okay. The way we need to think about shadow work is that the object of the game. So we've named it, name it whatever you want to name it, right? The villain is fear. That's who our final monster is. The villain is fear. But the object of the game is to find and confront the person who's sitting on the couch playing the game. So the person who's controlling the avatar. That's the object of the game. And again, the way to do that is to go inside to get out of yourself. Okay. We can only know what is universal knowledge or attach into that energy and those things and to get that knowledge to pull things down, to move on to the next level, to get past our barriers when we go inside ourselves. It's the only way we can get what we truly need. Again, we can't get inside other people's heads. So we can get advice from people, we can learn new things, we can do those things, but at the end of the day, whatever you need for your life to be successful is to go inside, ask yourself, and get the answers, right? Because we're going to find and confront the person, the entity, the thing that's sitting on the couch with the controller playing the game. Okay. What do you guys think the rules of play would be? Like, how they talk about universal laws, like the law of gravity, which actually has been disproven a few times, so that it's not actually a law. Terrence Howard was recently talking about that. So do you guys have do you think of any like universal rules that apply to everybody? It's deep. And a lot of philosophers have thought and thought and thought about what universal laws there exists. So I think, well, you guys, everything is a cycle. I like that. Yeah. Everything happens in, I don't want to sound like I'm quoting Terrence Howard, but in nature, this is proven in nature, everything is curved, right? They've talked about time is actually not linear, it is curved. That vibrations and frequencies are curved. Like our DNA, curved. Most of what makes us up is, even our entire avatar, there are not hard edges, angles, maybe our fingernails, you know, But again, when you look at your fingernails, they're curved, right? So, um, if everything is curved, if energy, nature, ourselves, if everything is curved, then you would think what we have to go through creates we have these cycles, right? But I kind of look at it like we have a cycle and then we can jump to the next cycle, right? So it's like you're going to keep having the same issues or the same problems or the same things are going to keep happening and it's in a cycle until you win that level. When you win that level, you go to the next stage and start a new cycle, right? But even like birth and death, it's a cycle. We're on this our ancestral relay race, that is a cycle. So I totally agree. Um, Leon says the law of tit for tat. I'm going to talk about that. Thank you. Yes. I call it karma, but people also use things like, well, we're going to talk about tit for tat when it comes to manifesting, but um, karma is a way to think of that. Entropy. Yeah. Cynical optimist. Hi. Thanks for being in here. Entropy. Yeah. We are all moving towards chaos. Adrian says everyone faces demise. Yeah. And I think that's one of the first real fears that we get, right? Like when we are faced with mortality, then we spend our life trying to buffer ourselves against our own mortality. We create children to continue our lineage. We fight aging. We spend lots of money at the doctor. We look at the makeup market. We do all these things to buffer ourselves against our own mortality. So we have that is our first big fear. So that's the first time we see the villain is the moment that we learn about mortality. Leon says there's no straight lines. Agreed. And even when you try to draw a straight line with a ruler, the closer you look at the straight line, the more you see that it is wavy. So straight lines are very, very difficult. And again, what happens naturally is not straight. They're not straight lines and there are no hard edges. Um, and I would add in entropy almost to that, that it's cyclical as well, because we move towards demise and decay, but then there's rebirth, right? So everything's moving towards chaos and then everything moves towards new life, just like our seasons, right? We move towards winter and then we come back out, in the spring towards flourishing, right? And then we thrive and move towards winter again. So these are great. Those are great. Well, I'm going to talk about a little bit of balance. Okay. But I'm going to use it in terms of karma. And karma is another word that gets thrown around. There's so many words that just get thrown around and people use definitions that don't make sense, or they make it tropey. And then, you hear the word and you're like, that. What karma really is it's about that cyclical, it's about tit for tat. It's about when we think about energy, right? Because energy is not created or destroyed. So everybody and everything that's here now is using the available energy that is here now. We don't have access to more energy. We can't create more energy on a quantum level. So everyone and everything that's here, just like we're using the same atmosphere, we're all using the same air. Unfortunately, it's like being in an airplane cockpit, right? Like, so the earth, we're all using the same stuff. So we're all using the same energy. So, but we move it and we manipulate it. And sometimes we take more and sometimes we take less. Again, energy flows. It's not just, this is my requisite energy, nobody can have any. We all know people who steal your energy, you know? You're like, no, I need to get that back, but we can refill, or we have people that help fill us up to where we feel like, okay, I got it. So when we talk about karma, thank you, Nina. Good point. Not all karma is bad. All karma means that what you put out is what you'll get back. Okay. So with karma, it's, I will, if I put positive energy out there, then I will get positive energy back. Does it mean that if all I ever do is put out positive energy, then all I will ever get back is karma or is good energy? No. Because again, things flow and they are flowing around. But just like when I say, and I say a lot, what you focus on is what you see. When you make your focus more about what you are doing, am I moving the needle towards a more positive life? Am I creating a positive interaction with everybody I talk to? And if that's the focus that I have, is focusing on positive interactions and positivity and having good manners and being sweet and being nice, then I'm more likely to get more of that back because that's where my focus is. If I go around focusing on, how do I get that bag? And how can I get money from this person? And how can I manipulate this situation where I come on top? How can I, what lie can I come up with to get away with the stuff that I want to do? Then that's what I focus on. And so then I make the assumption that everyone else is doing what I do, that they are trying to get the bag. They're trying to manipulate people. They're trying to get money out of situations. They're trying to figure out how to lie. They're trying to gaslight. Because that's what I'm doing. And that's my focus. So a lot of that is what karma is about, is that what you put out is what's available to you to come back. Dharma, Dharma, is similar in that what you put in is what you can put out. So again, like we talked about, what you focus on is what you see. You are creating your reality, honestly, because it's your senses interacting with this material world and then your mind deciding about it. So if I give myself good, healthy food, if I limit the bad things that I put in, but also if what I watch is positive and constructive and helpful, then that makes me be able to put out those positive things, right? If I'm just watching violence and negativity and whining and griping and war, and not to say you hide your head from those things, because we cannot put our head under the rock about this game of life. But if I bring in good, positive things, if I have good, positive people around me, if I have people that love me and build me up, then I'm also able to do that for them. Not in a transactional way, but I'm bringing in the good, positive, loving things so that I can put out good, positive, loving things. And then when I put out those good, positive, loving things, then that's what comes back to me. For instance, if I'm talking to somebody, okay, and they know me and they care about me and they speak good to me, and then I'm happy and I'm in a good mood and I go and talk to a stranger, I have availability, that good positive energy. So then I put out this good positive energy to this person, and they, they accept it, and I put it out, and then they go to the next person and the next person and the next person. That's seeing dharma and karma in action, right? Can my karma affect the whole wide world? No, because I'm one piece of it. But if multiple people started putting out good, positive, loving energy, then that does shape the way the frequency flows. Leon just said, I just believe karma is energy. Absolutely. And if you remain in that space, it will come back. I learned this after distancing myself from old beef. I was free, and they met the same energy, dead or in jail or broke. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you leave people to their own cycles, right? And to their own energy. There are people who will say that if you are an empathetic person, it means you absorb other people's energy, right? And so that kind of takes dharma and karma to the next level, because if you are around people who treat you poorly, they don't speak love into you, they gaslight you and they manipulate you and they yell at you and they do these things to you, then what empathetic or empathic people tend to do is absorb that and just sort of shove it in somewhere. Now, eventually that's got to come out somewhere, somehow. You either learn how to, like he said, transmute that energy, change it into something else, use that energy for some kind of good, use it in a different way, and get away from that, so that you're not affecting your energy and who you are as a person. So in doing that, we can talk about manifestation a little bit. Yet another word that is thrown around and misused and talked about in ways that don't make a whole lot of sense. Cynical Optimist says Neville Goddard has great reading material. Also, Adlerian psychology. Oh, from Adler. Yeah. Neville Goddard. I know I have heard of stuff from Neville Goddard, but it's not coming to mind, his premises. Yeah, it's not coming to mind. You may have to help me, Cynical Optimist. Okay, so when we talk about manifestation, just like we talked about karma, what you put out and what you get back, and I referenced it for the tip for tat, okay? Because what you'll see on like social media and things like that are people like, I'm manifesting abundance. I'm going to make, lots of money. And then the next day you'll see their little video and they're like, I got a $300 deposit. And it's like, you can do that maybe once, maybe twice. But if you think about energy, and energy is in flow, okay? So if you try to manifest things without giving energy, then you're just pulling it from somewhere else, right? It's almost that when people used to always say, be careful what you wish for, or it's like the jinn or the genie will always trick you. There's always a punishment attached to the wish fulfillment. When people manifest without giving energy in return, they are taking without giving. Okay. So if you're just like, I want tons of cash, and you do all these things to manifest cash, like I hear things like, you have to vibrate at the level of abundance. You have to, right? Because you're drawing it in, you have to make it want to come to you. And people will look at it in a way of, well, I'm just receiving it because it wanted to be around me because I'm vibrating at that frequency. And that's possible, but that's also not how magnets work. So, and I look at things of more of quantum physics and less wish fulfillment and less religious dogma. So people who tend to go into or explain manifestation as, I asked the universe for it and the universe just gave it to me, the more you listen to them, you will start to hear religious dogma. Okay. You will hear things like somebody will say, well, I did the same thing you did, where I meditated on it. I had my mantra, I had my chants. I remained in a state of delusion and belief. I vibrated at the frequency of money. I listened to all these videos. I did all the things, and no money came. And these people who asked the universe for money and the universe just gave him money will say things like, "Well, did you listen to the correct videos? Are you sure you vibrated at the correct frequency? Did you do it every single day? Well, how are you meditating?" Which reminds me of religious dogma, right? Because in religious dogma, one person will pray to their deity for blessings and get them. And they will say, "Oh, the Lord, Allah, my God, my deity has blessed me. Look at all my blessings that I didn't have to do anything for. I just asked God for it and God gave it to me because I love God. God loves me. God gave me stuff. I didn't have to do anything." Then the person right next to them prays and worships and asks for blessings. "Can I have the blessings? Give me the blessings, please. I want the blessings." And they pray and they pray and they pray. And then they go and ask their religious leader, "Why am I not getting the blessings? Herman got the blessings. Why am I not getting the blessings?" And religious dogma teaches that it's your fault. You didn't pray hard enough. You didn't have a clean enough heart. You weren't in the right headspace. You need to, atone for your sins. You need to go to confession. It'll put all these things of how it's your fault. It creates this sort of toxic perfectionism of holding that dollar out in front of you, and you never quite reach it because it's your fault. Okay. So when we get into this, these sort of new age spiritually people who are just saying you can ask the universe for something and it'll give it to you, that's not how energy works. It's not. You have to get energy to get things. It's cyclical, right? So we have to put in some energy. We have to I could ask the universe to grow carrots in my backyard. And when carrots just don't spontaneously start growing in my backyard, I can either give in to feeling like I'm not doing it right, or I can plant carrots in my backyard. I can put in some energy, right? I can put energy, even intention and positivity into the soil, into the ground, but I'm also turning the soil and I'm planting the seeds, right? But I want big, healthy, juicy carrots. So that's what I'm manifesting. I'm putting in energy to get energy. Okay. So just asking the universe to make a $10,000 deposit in your bank account, I don't foresee that ever happening just out of the blue, out of nowhere. Like that's, but if you put good things into the universe and you do the work, you go to school or you take the class, so you learn the thing or you learn the trade, you learn how to work wood, you learn how to do these things, and the whole time you're putting positivity into it, you're putting good energy into it, then it's going to have positive results. Now, I am not a toil your life away kind of person. That part of the matrix I think is ridiculous, but honing your craft and learning things and putting energy into things that make you better, that are part of your talents, are only going to bring positive things. Okay. D. Scott, yeah, what work are you putting in? Pray until you bust a vein. Yeah, Leon says pray until you bust a vein. Right. And it's always your fault, right? Why is it always you see the pastor and or the religious head, and he's got great clothes, his hair's always done, he may have nice jewelry, nice shoes, drive a nice car, his wife's got this big old rock on her finger, and she's got the nice outfits, if they allow marriage. Some of them don't. But he or she, I guess, will be the first one to tell you that the reason you don't have the same thing that he has or she is your fault. I mean, on a cognitive level, that doesn't really make sense. Like, if me and Herman are the same, why does Herman get the blessings and I don't? It It doesn't make sense. Okay. Adrian says, I think even in Christian dogmas, it talks about God adding the increase. I don't know exactly what that means. The scenario about the pastor is because there's a difference between praying and praying with an E. Yeah. I mean, on a bigger scale, the pastor is doing that well because all the people that he's saying aren't doing good enough are giving him money. Cynical optimist says, here's a snippet of Goddard's work. Okay, great. In the beginning was the unconditioned awareness of being, and the unconditioned awareness of being became conditioned by imagining itself to be something. Love it. And you know what it makes me think of is that in the book of Genesis in the Christian Bible, that means it's probably in other books as well. Probably would be in the Torah, but not the Talmud, and would probably be in the Quran. Okay. So where it's that point in time where God realizes he exists and he says, I am. Now remember, I think, therefore I am. Remember that part? God, however you imagine it, realized it was sentient and said, I am. And that manifested matter and time. This simple thought of realizing that you're sentient. And if you think about small children, when they realize they are a separate, independent being, which starts around 2 to 3 years old, and they start to think for themselves, they start to see themselves as a separate, sentient being, matter starts to have meaning, and so does time. Okay. Cynical optimist says it's quite esoteric. Yeah, I can see how, it could be esoteric because it's deep, right? Like you kind of have to think about it. Like if you are unconditioned awareness, then the conditions of awareness that we have now in our avatar don't apply. So trying to imagine what that was like is impossible because it was unconditioned and we are conditioned. And we can't, by becoming conditioned and conceptualizing, right? Imagining itself to be something we have to have matter. For something to exist, there has to be matter. Yeah. Adrian says what adding the increase means is that you have to do something and then God adds the increase to your original output. Oh, yeah. Oh, and that's literally what Leon said. Oh, yeah. The energy I put out to my son is I am the boss. and he treats you like the boss, right? So what you put out, you get back, right? But what Adrian said just reminds me of this little story that I heard one time. And it's about this monk. And he's in this little tiny village or tribe, however you want to imagine it. But he's this monk. And he's Christian in this story, okay? Christian of some sort, whatever the denomination is. He's a monk. But his church is so poor. And the village is going through a drought. And things are really, really rough. And he has this statue of the deity of choice, right? So the statue of God or Jesus or whatever. He has the statue. And he believes the statue, you pray to the statue, you're praying to God, you're praying in front of this statue, and that if you're just good enough and holy enough and God loves you enough, your prayers will be answered. So every day he goes in front of this statue and he prays to God and he begs and he's just, on his knees, forehead to the floor, crying, weeping, praising his deity, just asking every day, just let us win the lottery. It would save the entire town. The entire village would be saved. And all it would take is winning the lottery, and that hurts no one. It hurts no one. It doesn't steal from anybody else. It doesn't take money from anybody else. It causes no harm. Somebody has to win it. So just let me win the lottery so that I can save my village. I can save the people. I can do the things. Let me win the lottery, please, please. And he just worships and praises and worships every day, every day, every day, every day. He never wins the lottery. And one day he's just ticked. He's had enough. He's begged. He's pled. He's worshiped. He's done everything. He has led a good life, and he's followed every tenet, and he's helped everybody he's come in contact with, and he's always maintained a good attitude, and he's did everything according to the religion, and there's just nothing else he could have done, and God still didn't let him win the lottery, and he's pissed. So he goes in front of the statue and he's like, screw you, God. There was no reason for me not to win the lottery. I wasn't even going to keep it. We were going to buy food. We were going to fix the houses. We were going to get water. We were going to figure out how to have crops. It was just going to save the people. I didn't want to be rich. What possible reason could you have for not letting us win the lottery? And all of a sudden, a voice says, you never bought a ticket. That's the story I think of about you got to put some energy out to get the energy back. Because no matter how much you beg and plead for things to come to you, if you don't set things up, if you don't put things in play and in motion to make those things happen, if you put no effort, also called energy, towards the thing, then you're just stealing from the energy, or it's just never gonna come, right? People talk about, well, you must be in a lack mindset. I hear that a lot. You're just in a lack mindset. Listen, being realistic about the fact that, your checking account is in the single digits and you don't get paid for weeks and pay some stuff, and that in that moment you're broke as far as money is concerned, that's not a lack mindset. That's reality. That's money is part of the game that we play. You have to know what your score is. You got to keep track of your score and see what you need to do to get. It's not a lack mindset. It's a reality mindset, right? Why would you even ask for money unless you had a lack mindset? Do you get my point? To even ask for money would mean that you lack money. So for those people who say, well, money doesn't come to you because you're just in a lack mindset, well, that's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's a cyclical argument. I don't have money because I lack, and I lack because I don't have money because I lack because I don't have money. Make it make sense. So, I talked about, guilt, or, even when we talk about, the religious dogma, even like that you have to offer people forgiveness. Why? If people stole energy from you, they stole time from you, they stole positivity from you, they stole good things from you, they stole matter from you, however you want to look at it. I mean, even somebody arguing and berating and calling you names is taking your time and your energy and your positive vibrations. And then they say you have to forgive them, or you can't move on, or God's not going to like it, and even in this new age spirituality, they say you have to forgive. And my question always is, why? They took, and now I have to go and fix, right? Like now I have an empty thing or a broken thing, be it my heart, my energy, the way I think, now I have to fix it. Why do I have to forgive them? I honestly can move on without giving somebody forgiveness when they didn't ask for forgiveness. And especially when they didn't do anything to atone for or show accountability for the thing that I'm supposed to be forgiving them for. Again, common sense and logic says you don't have to do that. I think a lot of times dogma is put in place as a sense of control. We teach people turn the other cheek. You have to forgive everybody, even when they don't even say they're sorry. Guilt. Guilt is a big part of religious dogma to control behavior. But I'm not, whatever people's religious beliefs are, please. Psychology teaches that we all have to believe in something greater than ourselves. My thing is more like everything, including religion, has some dark side, right? Everything has the shadow side. Even the country of the United States of America has a shadow. And it's not necessarily what people think it is. Because remember, it's the alter ego, it's the anti-hero. So I think we just have to be realistic when we're doing our own shadow work and we're looking inside, is that sometimes some dogma has shamed us, or we're holding on to guilt and we haven't forgiven people, and so we're beating ourselves up for that, when logically that ain't it. That's not the thing. Nina reminded people to hit the like button. Thank you, Nina. Cynical Optimist says, if I remember correctly, Goddard's mentor was an Ethiopian Orthodox Christian. It makes sense. Have you guys heard, just as an aside, because, squirrel, that the oldest version of the Bible, which again, remember, the Bible is just a collection of several books bound together. But I'd heard that the Ethiopian Bible was one of the oldest. I don't know if it's older than, it would be older than the Geneva Bible, but I don't know if it's older than the Kilburn Bible. I don't know. The Kilburn Bible has the Sumerian texts in it. I don't know. That's just an aside because, squirrel. Hi, Toya. Thanks for being in here. Leon says, I believe in all the religions. I just remind myself I don't live in those times or those cultures. Yeah. Yeah, Leon says Ethiopia. Yeah, it seems like the Ethiopian Bible, I'd read that somewhere, that's the oldest version of those books, which if you think about it, a lot of those scrolls, what the books are based on, were found in that region. So it would make sense that they have the original versions. I like to look at original versions of things before the story started changing. Okay. I have to clear my throat. Excuse me. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, as we're talking about dogma, we can also talk about that in New Age spirituality, in religion, and in psychology, a lot of it is using different words for the same concept. So things like talking about heaven, the heavens, ether, and air. So those are all things that could be interchangeable when we hear about these kind of concepts, or when we're talking about shadow work. Okay. Just like Jung himself, one of his archetypes that he has a close relationship with is his soul. And he talks a lot about God. He actually confronts God in his meditations in the Red Book. He is Christian. And that plays a part into how he conceptualized his archetypes. So it doesn't necessarily matter what you call it, just know when these things are talked about, they can be interchangeable. Or like we talked last time, the collective unconscious could also be called God. It could also be called quantum physics or quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement. It could be called spirit. It could be called, the collective unconscious could also be called the Akashic records. So it's just where the knowledge of all things is. And so it doesn't, again, necessarily matter what you call it, just know what it is. or you angels, or you could hear people talk about guardian angels, spirit teams, your ancestors on the other side. All of these are lesser deities or entities of some sort outside of the veil or outside of the matrix that we believe interacts or does things to help us on this game of life. We also have things like archangels, which would be similar to archetypes, or they may also be called oversouls, or you may hear phrases like ascended self, which the ascended self would be the person sitting on the couch playing you as the avatar. That's your ascended self. That's the you outside of the you that you are now. They get confusing. Okay. Toya says, I like that perspective, Leon. Yeah. Oh, Adrian says it's called the Coptic Bible. Yeah, and that's a copy I don't have. And again, I love these ancient writings from when people first wrote things down and not when they got changed, due to political differences. Cynical Optimist says the superconscious or infinite intelligence. Yeah, those are great. I actually like superconscious better than collective unconscious because it's not always unconscious, right? Because we can pull from it, we can tap into it, we can bring it into our consciousness. And it is sort of overarching. So super conscious sounds great. Love those. Those are all great. Again, it doesn't necessarily matter. It has to make sense to you. It has to resonate with you. It has to tie in for you. Because again, your reality is all about your perception. Reality is perception. So whatever you want to call these things or how you want to reference them or how you want to view them is up to you. The point is how you contextualize them and that you have them. Again, psychology has already proven that believing in something outside of yourself leads to balance. And the whole point is to be balanced. It's not to be all good all the time. It's not to be all bad all the time. Righteous anger is righteous. In the same way that being positive or nice to somebody just to get them to do what you want is bad. The point is to try to be neutral, right? Neutral is where it's at. Not all good all the time, not all love and light all the time. Is sometimes somebody needs smacked. You see what I'm saying? Life is about being neutral. Okay? So, do you believe that archetypes are just aspects of you and you are the only character that matters? You're the only person that's real? Is it that you feel like angels are with you all the time, watching down on you? Do you feel like your ancestors are rooting for you and they help you and guide you along the way? Or is it all of that? Do you believe all of that in some way, shape, or form? Again, the whole point is to have your team. Okay. So these are the people, these are the entities, these are the things, this is the knowledge that is your team, your teammates in this game of life where you're trying to win over fear to get to the truth of who you are. So there's a study called the Spain Scale of Emotion, SPANE. And what they did was tens of thousands of people they did this with, by the way. This is not a small study. And this is where we're going to leave off today, and where we'll pick up next time. Because we're going to talk about how to tap into that. Today we talked a lot about the what, okay? The Spain Scale of Emotion, what they did was they had people feel certain emotions, right? So they did things so people could feel love, or they could feel anger, or they could feel frustration, or and they went through, they could identify, a vast amount of emotions based solely on the frequency that the person put off. And they tested and retested and retested and retested, and they were able to identify the frequency, the literal frequency of every single emotion that we put out. And when we talked about what we see is on the electromagnetic spectrum, right? We don't see, unless we can see auras, we don't see when people put out energy by their emotions, but we can all feel it. We can feel when people's vibe changes. Well, a lot of us can. Some people haven't really honed that in yet, but we can feel their vibe. You know, we can feel what kind of energy they're putting out. We can feel what they're on, okay? Now, with the Spain scale of emotion, they identified which emotion vibrates the highest. Now, when we talk about quantum mechanics, spirituality, all of these things, vibrating the highest puts you into the ultraviolet side of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is where like positive energy is. It puts you in the best state of mind. It is the higher the frequencies that you're around, actually changes your mental health, your physical health. There are people out there who are treating cancer with, frequency jolts and having positive interactions. So vibrating at a high frequency or being surrounded by a high frequency is the most healthy thing for you. This is what we want to do. Does anybody have guesses at the emotion that is the highest frequency? And it's the highest frequency, the one, it is 400 times higher than the next one closest to it. That is the highest that we can create. Anybody have guesses? Hi, Rogish. Thank you for being in here. Hi, D. Scott. Oh, no, I already said hi to D. He said hi to Rogish. Okay, Adrian says, my team is an ancient group of 36 ancestors. They're in a constant state of throwing their hands up and hiding their faces in their hands as they screw up all of their collective gains they achieved. Adrian's in that lack mindset. Yeah, Rogish says frequency is the key. Oh, Rogish says love. His guess is love. Okay. Leon says, I call the energy, for example, when your woman comes in the door after work, looking at my camera, and she's still in her car. Yep, her day sucked. Yeah. Cynical optimist says bliss. Rogish says, which is weird. Any other guesses? I will tell you this, Rogish is not correct, and cynical optimist is not correct. But you would think, like, from everything that we've been taught and told, and from what we think, and what we feel, love feels so good. Love can feel blissful. Blissful can feel like love, right? And so we think that's the thing. That's what we're all seeking all the time too, right? Like we're seeking out love, we're seeking out bliss. And so you would think that's the thing that feels the best, right? Roga says the power of love is wackly strong. Is that a new word, wackly? Struggling Brother says hate, right? Do you guys know the opposite of love is not hate, it's apathy? Because to hate something, you have to care. You have to care enough to hate it. And if you care, that's not the opposite of love. The opposite of love is apathy. Yeah. It is not hate. So the thing, the feeling that vibrates, that has the highest frequency, that vibrates the highest for us, is the thing that society is lacking right now. It is feeling authentic, being authentic, feeling like you are your most authentic self. Which kind of makes sense again when we talk about shadow work and understanding who you are. You have to go inside to get outside. Love is about external things. Bliss is about finding happiness. So the thing that makes us vibrate at our most healthy, balanced, positive energy is being authentic, being your authentic self. And we are sorely lacking that in this society. I will say, just as an example, you guys know of one of the examples, but I'm going to tell you about another one. So I did a video called How Math B Words. And I went through a lot of different studies and a lot of different research, but there was one thing that I didn't think that there was research on. I didn't see it in just a quick search. I missed it. And then when somebody reviewed that, they said, no, 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 there is research about this thing right here. And I asked for the study. Can I get the link? And then I went back and made another video and said, hey, here's where I messed up. And it almost seems surprising to a couple people, like, oh, hey, somebody took accountability. It seems so simple, right? Like, oh no, I messed up. I missed this thing. Let me fix that. Another example is I was on TikTok and got to moving too fast, trying to make a comment, had too many ideas in my mind. I told you guys, squirrels. And the way I said something was not the way I intended to say it. And I didn't realize it for a long time. So people were kind of coming at me. And then when I did realize it, I literally apologized to everybody who was involved and made a video, called myself out, and apologized for the whole thing. And the man, oof, boy, was he was taking me to task making videos. And he was like almost impressed that I apologized. And I said, oh yeah, that was dumb. Like, that was literally dumb what I said. This is what I was trying to say. Okay. And I apologize. That was, whew, no wonder y'all were coming after me. And now we follow each other. So, but it's like being authentic, we're not allowed to, because again, they push toxic perfectionism. Well, if you were just better, if you were just better, if you were just better, shaming people, creating guilt, you just got to be better. Then, and you get made fun of anytime you do anything. People make fun of you. They clown you. You trip on the street and people would rather laugh at you than help you up. You're down on your luck and people would rather lord that over you than help you out. Like, we're just, being authentic is not allowed. We are so ego driven that do we have any healing frequencies in us whatsoever? So that's the part I want to leave off on, is say the truth. Be you. Say the hard thing. People get over it. Don't be inauthentic. Don't be inhonest. Don't be fake. Inhonest. Dishonest. Don't be fake. Don't be fake. And do not apologize for being you. Do not. Because that means in some way you are still not being authentic, or you're not really relaxing into being authentically you. And that is how we maintain balance. That is how we reach these higher things, is by just being authentic and being real. Just be real. So there's your homework. Be real. Okay. Roguish says, it's the reason I am so roguish. Realer than a $2 bill. I have some of those. Roguish also says, I can see why you and Toya click if that's in your character. LOL, real talk. For sure. Like, it seems common sense that when you mess up, you're like, I totally ate shit on that one. and I'm sorry, but people want to double and triple down on being wrong, because for some reason they take it as a hit. Again, people are in their egos, and it's hard to admit you're wrong, or to tell the truth and take the chance that somebody's going to be upset with you. it's hard because we're in our ego. Cynical Optimist says, I appreciate the work you do, Maggie. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to leave it off on be a real one this week. Next week, we're going to get deeper into the Spain scale of emotion and ways to access the superconscious. I'm going to use that phrase, the collective unconscious, the Akashic records, whatever we want to call it. We're going to start talking about ways to access it and pull things from it. I hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday. Have a good dinner if you haven't already. Be a real one this week, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.